Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Live Your Spa Life. Spa Life is a lifestyle that accepts that accomplishment and harmony coexist. The Spa and Spa Life, the SPA, is for Seek Power Always, that power within you to do your deeper work in the world. I am so impressed to actually share with you my special guest today, Laura DiBenedetto, the author of The 6 Habits. She teaches how to create a life of your dreams without changing who you are. And as the founder and CEO of Vision Advertising, she has helped hundreds of companies build and grow profitable enterprises. Laura lives on Maui. So for those of you who are watching versus just listening, I've got my little aloha hibiscus that I'm wearing here to welcome that aloha spirit into the call where she lives with her husband. Laura, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's awesome to be here with you.
Thank you. Well, one of the things that I'm really excited about is one that you chose to make a big shift and change in where you were living. And before we get into what the six habits actually are and what that actually means, is I want to step back into what was originally kind of a disempowering experience for you when you retired from your company, where you came to understand that happiness is very complicated. And I'd love for you to talk about the destructive illusion of happiness.
Sure. Oh, man. Well, I'm sure you know this. Society has very specific ideas of what happiness is. All the marketers of the world, and I say this owning a marketing company, all the marketers of the world want to give you the idea that, happiness is at the bottom of the next bucket of product that you buy, or it looks like a specific thing. And well-meaning parents and family members and even teachers will, celebrate a lot of material success and a lot of achievement, and really give us the idea that happiness is something you can check off, something you can buy, something you can acquire, except it's not. And I got sucked into the illusion that, oh, cool, well, if I do all these things, I'll be happy. And there'll be happiness waiting for me at the end of the rainbow. Wrong. It's not how it works. It's happiness really comes from within. It took me years to undo a lot of the messaging I'd been given. And it was really liberating once I really found the wellspring of endless happiness inside of myself.
I love this so much, and this is what led to, the 6 habits. And you speak about how they appear to be deceptively simple, but there's actually many layers to that. So I'd love for you to share what those 6 habits are and how they've transformed your life.
Sure. So the 6 habits, boy, they do look simple, because I'm about to tell you what they are and you're going to be like, oh, well, duh. Except applying them, that's where it gets complicated. The thing is, the 6 habits are a collection of the exact correct things we need to be doing every day, all day, that actually help us to create and find the happiness from within. So you ready for these 6 simple things? You ready?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. Kindness to yourself. Acceptance of yourself, which is basically unconditional love. See? It's actually really hard to unconditionally love yourself. Radical gratitude. You've got presence, choosing this moment. Goodness, which is energy management and taking care of all the good energy that you're allowing in, inviting in, and repelling toxic energy. And the habit of intention, which is getting stuff done, but with purpose, right? So these all sound easy at the outset. Oh, be nice to myself, accept myself, be grateful, yada, yada. Except in practice, that's where it gets hard, because we have a lifetime of habits that we're already really good at that fly directly in the face of this, of looking in the mirror and being like, you're fat, or I can't believe I did that. I'll never forgive myself for doing that, or taking stuff for granted, or even little stuff like, that hashtag first world problems. These are tiny micro examples of how we're not necessarily being great in these habits, but we all have a degree of proficiency already. It's a matter of being able to tap into the specific things we need to do and then working on our game to get us the rest of the way.
Right. Well, Laura, I can only imagine that, one of the first steps in this is having awareness of where, you're falling through on some of these. So what would you like really suggest for people that they go, oh yeah, I want to do this, or they think they're already doing this, but there's another level to it, to really now have the awareness of where the gap is for them?
It's a great question. And I think a lot of people that first hear about the six habits, they're going to have, one of two reactions. Yeah, I'm already good at it, and don't give it a second thought. And that's fine. But for the people that really are like, oh, maybe I could be actually better at these things. Like you said, the first step is self-awareness. So do a self-inventory, sit down with yourself, write down what the six habits are: kindness, acceptance, gratitude, presence, goodness, and intention. Write them down, right? Figure out, where are you standing now? To just take an inventory of like what the present state of the situation is. Have you been improving over the years, or have you been declining over the years? And where are the gaps? Like if you gave yourself like a score of 1 to 100, you might be like a 90 in one of them, but like a 20 in another. Figure out where you really have your biggest gap. And that's when you really see your biggest invitation to be successful. For me, I have ADHD. Presence is not something I'm hardwired to do. It's difficult for me, but that for me is actually my biggest invitation to work on myself, because it's like, oh, yeah, I'm not good at this at all, but I know I can be. So that's where I choose to invite myself to do lots of work.
Right. So is there a spectrum of this work as well? Like, is there like areas where you can be, let's say, more present with like a best friend or with a client, but you're not as present with the person at the checkout line? I mean, is there kind of a spectrum or degree of where we excel in certain ways of utilizing these tools, and other ways that we're not quite there yet?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a spectrum. I think it's really just like acknowledging like different moments hold different potential for us. I'll give you a great example. One of the clients that I was coaching last year, I noticed that she really struggled with kindness, but only in one aspect of her life, just professionally. She was really kind to herself personally. She'd always look in the mirror and say nice things and really just treat herself with great kindness just as a woman. But then when it came time for her to excel in her career, she really struggled, because she would say things like, oh, well, you're not very good on the phone. You're not going to really do this. Or you're not going to really be able to pull this off. I wouldn't even bother try. So it's that negative bully that's living in our heads. And for her, it only attacked her professionally. And then some others, were just the opposite. I mean, like presence, for example, again, picking on me. I mean, with ADHD, everything is a shiny object. So it's really difficult to pay attention, right? But I noticed that I tend to really struggle to be super present with things that are not really hyper interesting. Like when my mom, God bless her, she wants to go on and tell me all about family history. I'm not that fascinated by that. So I struggle to be present with that because I'm just not interested. But that's when I have to physically put the phone aside, because I want to play with my phone and be like, wow, anything is more interesting than hearing about family history. But out of respect for my mom and just choosing to be present with her, I have to force myself.
Got it. So choices that are being made along those lines. Going back to your client around kindness, did she realize that for herself, that she had that gap?
No, she didn't. It's once we started really just like diving really deep into the habits themselves, was she able to really see it. When you read the book, and when she read the book, she's like, oh yeah, I'm really, I'm great at kindness. Except once you start peeling away the layers and taking a look at the different parts of your life that you're living, that's when you have to like, oh, everywhere I go, there I am. You need to be kind to yourself all the time, including when you're at work. So when you're looking at yourself and doing the self-inventory, who are you and what are your roles? You might be a business owner. You might be a parent. You might be a son or a daughter. You might be a boss. Evaluate your ability to be a ninja at these six habits in all of the different roles that you hold.
Right. Well, in this time where there's, the self quarantine that's happening, there's like a lot of separation and people are in themselves. And depending on how much exposure people are having to, the negativity, the sky is falling, Chicken Little, mentality of just a lot of negativity that if people, choose to plug into that can really affect them. Can you talk about the area of goodness and about managing energy and how you're helping people really utilize that management of energy and how this ties into the goodness with what's happening in the world today?
Absolutely. I'm very grateful that you asked this question because this is so useful right now. So, goodness is energy management, and we're getting bombarded with negative energy left and right. You scroll through social media, and it's nothing but bad news and news reports, and people like complaining and like condemning other people's behavior and just political rants and everything. It weighs you down. Then there's the news on TV, and that weighs you down. It's just so much. But then there's the good energy. Here on Maui, if you get caught lazing around in the sun, you will be given a $5,000 fine and an invitation to go to the courthouse when the plague is over. So the addition of good energy,
Wow. Wait, say that again, because I don't think people are realizing what's happening with that. Say that again.
$5,000 fine if you're caught lazing around in the sun. Like, you cannot sit on the beach. Forget it.
Any
Like,
beaches.
correct.
Wow.
You can't do that. People get far too close to each other, and they're not really being super respectful of social distance. So, or physical distance. I think that's a better way to put it. So going outside is encouraged, but I don't know, there's some complexities with, like, if the park is closed, but the park is directly in front of the beach, too bad you can't go to that beach to even get some exercise in the water, which is allowed because the ability to get to the ocean is through state property that is closed. So the amount of accessible beaches is very small. It's leading to some crowding. Lots of people are feeling like really closed in. So yeah, $5,000 fine. Do not sit and watch the sunset. Don't do that. So what you've got with all of the stuff that's going on in the world right now, we're all being bombarded with negative energy, right? And this is toxic energy. It's harmful. If you're constantly receiving nothing but bad news, bad news, bad news, are you really going to wake up every day with a can-do attitude? No.
Right.
But if you're actively adding good energy to your life and having really firm boundaries and honoring them with yourself, which is so hard to do, you're more likely to actually feel like you're capable, stay healthy. I'll give you some examples. If you set a timer for yourself for watching TV and the news, set a timer, and when the timer goes off, shut it off. Put your phone down, change your news feed. So on social media, you're only following nothing but positive accounts, things that give you good things. And if you want to stay informed, give yourself 5 minutes to check the reputable news sources, and that's it. But we have to safeguard and create really firm boundaries and honor those, right? But we also need to be doing good things. I can't seem to buy a puzzle anywhere online, so that will not be one of my good things I will be adding because they're all sold out everywhere. But I can paint, and maybe this is time for us to work on ourselves or, dive into this deep self-inquiry work and evaluate who are we being in the world, and maybe start that business you've always dreamed of, or start that project, or darn it, write the book. Anything.
Right. Well, and it's interesting with, like you said, like, you can turn anywhere and have like, negative things happen. And it feels like there's so much that's happening where what you can't do and shouldn't do this. And there's just all this projection that's happening around that. What specifically, if you're trying to cultivate more good energy and that's in the face of, but you can't go to the beach and, but you can't go here and all of those kind of barrier type things. What are some things that a person can just do in and of themselves to actually create more good energy?
Great question. It's going to really depend on where you live. For example, folks in New York City that have like a 500 square foot apartment, that's going to be really difficult for them to like go for a walk because you're not supposed to be around people. And that's all New York City is just wall to wall people. For those individuals that have less access to fresh air and like safe distances, I would say that there really needs to be an invitation to do home-based things, start a project, get into creativity, watch some YouTube tutorials, maybe dive into art. Everybody can do art. You don't need to be good at it, because art, it's not being graded. It's art is literally, it's just an expression of something that's within you, and it's okay if it's terrible. I mean, if Jackson Pollock could put paint splatter on a canvas and be celebrated, believe me, you could draw a stick figure and that's just as good. And I love Jackson Pollock. So there's a lot of things we can do, within ourselves. But like, my parents live in a little small town in Massachusetts, and they do have some yard. They can't go anywhere, but what they can do, especially because spring is here, they can go outside, maybe clean the leaves out of the garden. They can go check for baby birdies and little birds' nests and check to see what's sprouting. And there's just little projects. This is like such a great opportunity to like totally like Marie Kondo your house, like do all these crazy projects, start the book, start the business. It's just, you got to get creative. You got to ask, you got to like lean in with your friends, and ask for the support you need. Because I think one of the things that we have now that we didn't have when the Spanish flu was around is we have video technology. I get to hang out with you. This is awesome. And, I don't have to feel socially isolated. I'm physically isolated, but I get the opportunity to do video chats with my friends. I can help others. I created a group on Maui for the community to come together on Facebook and help each other with supplies and resources. Other people can do this. And giving to others is one of the most powerful ways to make yourself feel good.
Yeah, I love this, like thinking outside of the box and look at what's possibility. And, one of my mentors had mentioned, like, for if everyone just like projected like a year from now, and if you could answer the question of what positive thing came out of this experience, like if you looked at like the overall shifts and changes, and, I know change can be really uncomfortable for people, but if you actually had the mindset that a year from now, my life is actually going to be better, that there's going to be something that's going to show up in that way, what would you say that would be for you?
I've been thinking like an investor since the beginning of this and putting my habits to work. And I've been like, well, at some point this will be over and I want my life to be better. So I'm going to stay home to make sure I'm healthy so I can get there. But also I'm going to choose to use this gift of really weird time where I'm stuck at home, and I'm going to use it wisely. So I'm thinking about, right now, I am finishing up my audiobook recording, which is super exciting and super nerve-wracking because I'm not a sound tech. So again, pray for me.
You're going to be great.
So a year from now, my TED Talk will be published, which is great. It was supposed to happen April 11th, but we know what's going on in the world. So it got pushed to either October or March next year. So it gives me more time to prepare. I'm grateful.
Yeah.
But I'm actually thinking about getting started on my second book.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll definitely have to talk about that. So speaking about your TED Talk, and it's in the, speaking of being pushed back, it has to be in pushing boundaries is the area that you're speaking around. Can we have like a little sneak peek about what you're going to be sharing in your TED Talk?
Sure. I think that one of the things that we do is we kind of just accept the definitions that society and our well-meaning families hand to us. This is happiness. Here you go. We need to invite ourselves to push the boundaries that have been placed around us and to give ourselves that crazy radical permission to define happiness for ourselves. And some of us, listen, I have humble definitions of what happiness is. I don't need a Lamborghini. I have an Acura. That's good. It gets me from A to B. That's all I care about. But for me, I need to see the ocean from my pillow, not just my bedroom, from my pillow. So I have different definitions of happiness, and that was one of them. And one of the things that I'll be talking about in the TED Talk is dispelling the myths of what happiness is, giving people a massive loving invitation. Please courageously define it for yourself and forget what other people have told you. Maybe you don't need to be a millionaire. Maybe you just need a cabin in the woods. What is it for you? Just give yourself permission to just love whatever it is that you've chosen. And it's okay if it's not big and audacious. It might be really humble. And I think that's one of the big things I'm excited to talk about. And then, of course, I'm going to get into the habits and talk about how we can do it and make it simple. And it's tough to do in 18 minutes, but I will do it.
Well, now you got time to practice it as well. So
yeah, I do.
that'll be good. Well, I love this about defining for ourselves what that looks like, because it comes back to, having 100% responsibility for our life and what it means to us. And I think you're right that, there is so much influence of what people put out there of what happiness should look like, what success looks like. And I think this is even a time to look at, what does health look like for you? I mean, there's different things where people are trying to tell everybody what health is supposed to mean to you. But I think there's also a personal responsibility that comes with checking in with yourself. What do you need for your own personal health? I mean, and this is probably counterculture, but I think people need to get outside. They need to have that fresh air and nature and, have that connection. And maybe there's certain areas that are being limited, but you can be innovative and you can go down a different block that you've not gone down before. There's different, maybe you need to climb up a mountain to be able to see the ocean from a different perspective, or doing something differently. But I think that when we start looking at that this is all choice, how we are choosing the way that we want to be happy and healthy and what our definition of success is, this really opens up the conversation of how we are looking at things differently. And keeping that in mind, you totally shifted, you and your husband, moving to an island. How does island fever ever affect you at all? And how long have you been in Maui, and what is some of your experiences been?
I've been here counting about 8 months now. Island fever has not hit me. I used to live in Massachusetts, and everything I needed wasn't that far away. So if I needed to drive to New York City, it's like a 3.5 hour drive. I felt like going to Montreal, it's a 5 hour drive. I wanted to go to Boston, it's 35 to an hour, depending on how heavy your foot is. So there was a lot of things that were reasonably close by. And here's the thing about island life. If you love the ocean, if you love the jungle, and if you love to explore and actually really witness and step into the majesty of this magical place, you're never going to get island fever because you're never going to run out of cool stuff to do.
I love that perspective. I think that that's so relevant in no matter where we're at. And now, as people are spending more time indoors and really looking around at your environment in your space, because this is an opportunity to go, is the things in and around my space, are they inspiring me? Is it like, do I love this space? Or what kind of shifts and changes do you want to make to that? And we have different experiences in different areas of our home. We feel differently in our bedroom versus our kitchen versus our living room. So what is your favorite room in your home and why?
I think that varies depending on the day. And my emotion, actually. When I'm feeling like, I'm going to crush the world and I can do anything, I love my office because I can sit right at my desk and I can feel like the master of the universe and build anything I want. But when I'm feeling just kind of low, like, oh my God, the world is ending, I can't deal, I just want to hide under the covers, and that's my bedroom. So I don't know, it depends. But I have my art hanging on the walls everywhere. I'm a painter. So
is that your work behind you?
That is a photograph that I took when I was at my old house in Massachusetts, and that is my work. I'm an artist. It's not commonly known, but I am a fine artist. I do oil paintings and I do photography and things like that, and that keeps me sane. And I have a oil painting of aquatic life going on right now. And the thing about oil paint is it takes eternity to dry. And so if you want to layer it, looks like you've got yourself a year-long project. I really should do acrylics because I'm a very impatient person. I just like the way oil feels when you paint.
Maybe this is an actual activity to fortify your presence.
Isn't it though? Teaching me patience. Boy, it sure is. It's just like, I work on something and I'm like, oh, I want to do that. No, it's going to ruin it. I'm going to wait 6 weeks and give it another shot. Maybe it'll be dry by then.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm curious, out of the 6 habits, what is the habit you love the most, and what's the habit that challenges you the most?
Well, the one I love the most for me is acceptance, because that one has made the most profound difference in my life. I had I don't know, I kind of had a rough upbringing where I was bullied a lot. I was domestically abused when I was in my first relationship. That was awful. But, you know, I didn't feel really good about myself for a long time. And acceptance and really choosing to unconditionally love myself is the thing that once upon a time I struggled with more than anything else. And I feel truly liberated now because I truly like unconditionally love myself. I accept myself. I treat myself with crazy kindness like all the time, but it's the acceptance for me that's made a difference. So the difference between the two, kindness and acceptance, they're sisters, but they're not twins. Acceptance is how you feel about yourself.
Mm.
Kindness is how you treat yourself, right? So for me,
Good
that
distinction.
radical acceptance within is my favorite because it's completely given me all the superpower to be able to do anything. And I've done some really crazy stuff. It's given me courage and whatever. But the challenge, I mean, I have ADHD, so presence is tough. It's tough. I'm like, ooh, shiny thing, squirrel. I mean, I just like it's tough, man. It is tough, but I freely admit I'm not perfect at these. I don't need to be. You know, it's just some of them I nailed it, like kindness and acceptance. I nailed it. Like I don't even really need to work on these things anymore because I did the hard work before. But presence, I think I may always struggle with. So it's just
Interesting.
conscious effort for me.
Yeah. So I'd love to, especially talking about nailing like the kindness and acceptance, can you talk a little bit about what that journey is for you? Because, I know there's a lot of people that have had, bullying, or they've had disempowering relationships, things that really have taken their power away from them.
Mhm.
And I don't know that that is a flip the switch moment. Was it like that for you, or what were some of the guiding posts that led you to be more accepting of yourself?
That's a very good question. You're good at these good questions.
Thank you.
So
Inquiring minds.
I know, right? No, it's good. The thing about kindness and acceptance, the change begins in an instant. The transformation begins with the decision that this is no longer good enough and I'm going to do something about it. And just
Mm.
that tiny little declaration of independence from all that's not serving you, it in itself is a pivotal moment and a big change. Doing the work, it begins with the self-inventory, and that's what that journey looked like for me. And one of the tools that I talk about in the book is the 1, 2, 3 knockout. And that is 3 specific things. And I use this tool. I want everybody to use this tool. It's literally, you need to hear yourself or catch yourself in your destructive thought. It could be, you look so fat in that. Could be. Then you need to be your coach, your inner coach, right? And that's your instructive thought. And that is going to be, if you keep talking to yourself like this, you're never going to feel good about yourself. So you might want to redirect. And then the third part is constructive. So that's when you'd say something, no, I look great. Still fabulous. So you have to catch yourself. It's constructive. It's constructive thought that continually needs to be where you're going. And we need to undo the habit of being really crappy to ourselves, because there's 3 parts. There's 3 little voices. We've got the inner bully, we've got the inner coach, and then we've got the inner nurturing parent. Most of us live with the bully and that's it. But we need the voice of the coach/teacher to be like, hey, cut that out. Stop it. You can do better. Someone cheering us on. But what we need to do is get to the place of massive, like, nurturing self-parenting, which is, think about a mom or a dad. You can do it, honey. You'll be okay. I believe in you. You've got this. We need to do that for ourselves, because at 39 years old, my mom is not sitting here holding my hand, putting all these thoughts in my head for me. I have to do it. So it's
Right.
important that we do that. And that's how other people can do it too.
I love that approach of just 100% responsibility, that we can be those different aspects that we need to hear, that we know the negative one that can pop up, and we can, that awareness that happens with that, to be able to shift in the moment in doing that. And I love how you talk about how the decision to be and do something different is instantaneous. The work has to come after it, but making that decision is like, you're like drawing a line in the sand that says, life is no longer going to be like that. I deserve more. I'm going to choose to do something differently. So I love just that definitiveness of that, because I think it's really important, because sometimes when people are in it, it doesn't feel like, they can change that quickly. And even though there is the process that happens, but the decision is quickly, like that part happens right away. It's the work to make it a habit, to be aware of what we're saying about what we're doing, that really makes a lot of the difference in what we're up to. So I think that is awesome.
Totally.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
Well, you know what? There's something really important that we're saying here is you and I keep saying this word decide, right?
yes.
Decide is, if you look at it, decide, right? That SIDE, that means to kill something off. So when you decide, you're killing off the choice that you're not going with. So when you actually make a decision to change your life in this specific way, you are actually killing off the old decision of choosing to stay the way you've been that's hurting you. And that's really important. Like, this choice and there's decision, they're two very, very different words. And, choosing something is very different than deciding and actually killing off the thing that's no longer going to work for us.
Right. Definitely more powerful for sure. So I love that. Well, so good. Well, I appreciate, Laura, all your wisdom and insight, and your bravery of just choosing a life that you really love. That really is an inspiration for me and for our listeners. And do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to leave with our listeners? And I know that also that people will want to be connected with you, maybe talk about how they can get the book, how they can follow you, and stay in contact.
Sure. So I would say that the thing that I would really love to leave people with is it's challenging to look at ourselves and really face ourselves, right? I'm sure you've done it in your life. And when you do that, you don't always like what you see, and it can be a painful experience, but it doesn't mean it shouldn't be done. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't persevere and push through. So I would love to invite everybody to just courageously face yourself. Just own the decisions that you've made in your life before. Own the paths that you've traveled and the ones that you've not traveled. And just be willing to take an honest and raw inventory of where you are. And then just lovingly decide where you would like to go instead. See, the thing that I did for so many years is I excelled in my career because of self-loathing. I didn't achieve or pursue things because of self-love, which really set me up for a lot of failure. I couldn't appreciate the journey. I didn't find a lot of happiness once I actually got there and checked the boxes I was supposed to check. But when you achieve and you create and you build and you work on yourself from a place of like genuine self-love, everything is sweeter. The journey is nicer. You enjoy everything, right? And like, it's a totally different experience. So go hard into yourself. Just stare at yourself unblinking. You can do it, and then powerfully choose and decide what you want to become and build your life from a place of self-love. So to find me, you can visit the6habits.com. The word six is spelled out, the6habits.com. You can check out the book and the program and learn about the habits. And there's lots of this wisdom you can take action on without ever giving me a penny. And I would love for people to just do this for themselves, because this is universal wisdom that everyone can benefit from.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Laura. It was great having you here. And I'm excited for not only the hard copy, but for the audio book as well, because I think that you do get to learn more about people's personality and what's behind the stories that are in there. So I'm excited for that. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it a lot.
You got it. And for our listeners, thank you so much for taking your time, our greatest asset, to be here with us. If you have any questions for us, please make sure that you tag both Laura and myself in the comments of wherever you are listening or watching the show, because we'd like to support you on your journey to choosing better habits for yourself. And if you find yourself where you've been giving your power away and you need to have some more resources with that, you can also go, it'll be in the show notes, as well as ways to connect with Laura. But you can go to resetyourpowergift.com, and you'll have some foundational things to support you with that. So I just want to thank you again for being here. And until we connect again, live your spa life. Bye for now. Bye-bye.